This podcast is part of the Michigan Sports and Entertainment Podcast Network. Go to michigansportsandentertainment.com for more great podcasts.
Look out, Larkin's wide open. There's the pass. He's in the clear. Scores! Oh, Dylan Larkin!
Yo, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Hockeytown Rundown podcast, the first podcast of the Hockeytown Rundown in 2020. I'm your host, Jay Sussex, and I'm joined by my wonderful co-host, Jay Croft. What is going on, Jay?
I'm doing all right. It's a new year. I think it's funny, though, because I was telling you before, it's like the Red Wings are like the only organization that's probably, has a New Year's resolution to keep losing in 2020. I mean, probably the Pistons now too, based on what's going on with them. But we are a hockey podcast, none of this basketball nonsense, right?
Exactly. I just want to wish you guys a quick happy holidays and happy New Year as well. I know we've sort of been away from the podcast for a little bit, but the holidays are always hectic, and we're back. We're covering this this disaster that we like to call hockey team right now in the Detroit Red Wings. It's just, they're not fun to watch right now. They're really not. I mean, they entered 2020 with a win. They finally got into double digits. They finally hit that 10-win mark, but otherwise they've been absolutely unbearable to watch. I mean, this is probably, I know you mentioned this, but I mean, it's the same here. I mean, this is the lowest amount of Red Wings hockey I've watched in a single season in a very long time. It is rough hockey to watch. I ended up watching the Dallas game the other night, and I watched the Chicago game from the other night as well. And I was like, oh, wow, they're up 2-0. And I sat down to eat dinner, came back, and they're down. And I was like, oh my God, okay. And that's typical Red Wings for you. It's just like, I don't understand how they give up, 4 unanswered goals just in the span of, a period and a half, I think it was. They were up 2-0 like halfway through the second period.
Well, you know why. It's hard to believe that a team. Honestly, it's more surprising than when they win. I mean, because in hockey with the NHL, it's really one of those things where even the worst teams, like last year's Ottawa Senators or a couple years ago the Colorado Avalanche, as bad as you can be, you're still going to catch teams on an off night or a bad night for a goalie or a backup or, somebody gets hot. I mean, this team, really, if you were to play like Russian roulette with this team, you would guess on most occasions the trigger is going to get pulled and nothing's coming out of the gun because they just don't have anything really going for them more than like a period at a time. I mean,
right.
The defense is so bad right now. I mean, we talked about it before the season started that this was going to be a rough one, but Hronik's playing 25 minutes a night or something.
He's playing an insane amount of minutes. He's
crazy.
Playing a lot.
And they admit that they didn't want him playing, or they didn't plan on him playing that kind of minutes, but it's forced him to kind of grow up a little bit quicker than normal. Kaiser being out for the whole season now. I think he only played 7 games, 8 games, something like that.
Right, yeah. And he had the surgery now, so he's pretty much done for the foreseeable future.
And he's been good. He was good last year, and I thought he would be a really good stabilizing force for Hronik. Nemeth has kind of had to take on that role, right? I mean, I think that's who they've given a lot of those minutes to, and Nemeth has been one of the few bright spots on that defense. You can't really count on him for any offense, but what they hired him to do, he's doing what they've asked him to do, for the most part. But you got Madison Bowie back there, who we've talked about before, who has shown some offensive growth, but he's still good for at least 3 or 4 Brendan Smith type gaffes every game. So that's been hard to watch. I mean, he's up as far as points. It's kind of funny how many points he has. I don't know the exact number, but it is pretty comical to think somebody who's getting sat every once in a while, or who's, openly being criticized by Blashill in the media for some of his propensity to just have these, all-out gaffes, it is one of the leading scoring players on the defense, and more points than Nielsen does. Nielsen actually scored tonight. We're actually talking while the Red Wings are playing the Canadiens right now, and the game is tied at 2-2. It looks like Red Wings just scored. I don't know if you can tell who scored that. Maybe you can take a look at that.
Yeah, let me just see really quick. I believe it was
Nielsen got the first goal.
Right.
And that's
I know
second.
Nielsen scored the first one, and then let me see. It looks like it is Robbie Fabry with assists from Dylan Larkin and Tyler Bertuzzi on that second goal. So
that's a good segue. Let's try to be somewhat positive today. Let's talk about that Robbie Fabry trade, the one of the few trades that Yzerman kind of took a swing on, a low risk move, and this one out of the three he made. He's made more than three, but some of the more notable ones, like this one, the Adam Ernie trade earlier for the 4th round pick. Then you had the whole Perlini and Regula trade, and then the Comrie for Sariarvi trade, which let's talk about that too. But let's start with Fabry. What have your thoughts been on Fabry this year?
I mean, there's not really much bad to say about him. I mean, the dude has been phenomenal. I still can't believe that has been a 1-for-1 trade. I know we talked about it in the previous episode that we recorded. We had a big segment about the Fabry trade and how well he's been playing. But I mean, he's been playing just way better than I think anyone ever expected him to. It's really surprising. I mean, he has 18 points in 26 games. Actually now it's 19 because of his goals. That's his 10th goal in the season. I mean, the dude is playing incredible. I mean, it's just that's all I can say. I mean, he's one of the few bright spots in the offense besides that top line. He's even earned some top line minutes with Manta's injury, which has been really good for him. I think he's definitely thrived playing with Bertuzzi and Larkin. That's the line he's playing on tonight as well. And clearly it's helping him produce points. I mean, putting a young guy like Robbie Fabry with, experienced point getters so far in the NHL and Dylan Larkin and Tyler Bertuzzi has really helped him. And I think, that new change of scenery really did the best for him. I mean, it's not like he was a bad player in St. Louis, but I mean, I think he's really unlocked his potential here in Detroit. I'm sure, he's obviously a free agent, I believe, in this upcoming offseason. So the Red Wings would have to. Though. Yeah, he's restricted. So the Red Wings could essentially just, they could just put it not. I mean, they could obviously just protect him if they really wanted to. But
you think there's any chance that he gets moved at the trade deadline because he's one of the few valuable pieces that they have that could be, traded? You're talking about a guy now. Hear me out. I don't want to trade him. I'm not.
Right.
I'm not. I'm not promoting that. But I mean, if you think about it, he doesn't make a lot of money. He's young. Whoever signs him, there's a chance they'll have his rights. So if you think about the amount of value he has right now, just the stock has gone up considerably. He's got 18 points on a crap team. He's playing big time minutes and he's playing good. I mean, he's got more value right now than Double A does, I think. Mm-hmm. I mean, Double A is going to make. Yeah. He's going to be making some money next year, which is why I think he's definitely going to get traded. I don't think Yzerman wants to deal with him in the off season, right. With him thinking he deserves more money based on how he's produced this year. But do you think the Red Wings even entertain an offer for him?
I definitely think it's a possibility. I'm not really sure what the Red Wings' long-term plans are for Robbie Fabry. I mean, obviously, he is a restricted free agent coming up, and, they could obviously just choose to, just protect that pick. And if some team decides to, to offer sheet him, if they get the right offer, then the Red Wings might take it. But I honestly don't really know. It's just one of those things where
he's a building block.
Right.
Honestly, for us, I mean, that's the thing, though, is, you know, he's somebody, I think at 20, he's 23 or 24.
I think he's 24, I want to say. I think he recently turned 24.
This is a guy that, you know, we're catching him, you know, right as he's, you know, I mean, he produced his rookie year, his first couple of years, and he ran into some injuries. But I know there are some fans out there that are concerned about his injury history. I've seen no concerns of that this year.
Right.
You kind of wonder if he's kind of gotten over that. But I've got people that I know, like at work, that are like, you know, like Mantha, he's injury prone now. And I'm like, you know, I get the concern, because if you're kind of watching from a distance, you've seen, you know, he's consistently had these injuries for long stretches, but they've been freak injuries. You know, Robbie Fabry had like legitimate injuries. I mean, like things that could come back up to haunt him. I mean, the Mantha stuff has been like him getting in fights and, you know, the freak stuff that's happened to him. Not necessarily, you know, he's got a bum knee or shoulder or something.
Right. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing, you know, I'm not sure if anyone's really up to date on the Mantha injury. I'm sure a lot of people have heard about it by now. I mean, the way he got hurt most recently is pretty stupid. You know,
slew-footed, man. To the
I was gonna say, he basically got slew-footed. They called it an upper body injury. I want to say, I wasn't sure if they necessarily said if he was in concussion protocol or what necessarily the specific pinpoint injury is, because they won't specify what the injury is. But from what I saw was the fact that he got slew-footed, he hit his head. I thought he was in concussion protocol, and he has a pretty serious concussion, which is holding him out. I believe they said 4 weeks minimum, I think it was.
Yeah.
He's week to week, I believe, for the Red Wings. So it's just one of those things where it's just unfortunate, and the injury itself just shouldn't have happened. That kind of stuff should not be in the NHL.
Well, he just got back, you know. I mean,
right,
he had just gotten back, and he had come back early, you know, earlier than they thought. And it's like, man, you know, it you know what it is? Like, I'm not even upset about him missing time because of like the Red Wings. You know, it's not the fact that the Red Wings are not going to win games because he's not there. It's, I wanted to see him hit 30 goals finally. And the pace he was at, he was going to hit like 45. You know, I mean, now, was he kept that pace up? Who knows? But I mean, the way he was playing, there was no reason to think he wouldn't. And, you know, now we're not going to see that again. I mean, it's like 3 years in a row now where we thought this guy was going to hit 30 plus, and he probably won't get it. I mean, unless he goes on some just tear. But you know how it is, man. Those guys come back from injury like that. It usually takes like 3-4 games before them guys find their legs.
Right.
And this guy missed almost 4 weeks before this injury. So, you know, he's still, you know, conditioning wise, I mean, I'm sure he's okay, but the timing, you lose that sense of timing when you're off the ice that long. So hopefully they figure this out. He figures this out. I mean, I don't know what to say. I mean, you know, I want the guy to be able to play a physical game. I don't want him getting into stupid fights, but at the same time, you know, I mean, I don't want him backing away from physical play.
No, I completely understand what you're saying. I mean, because that's my issue with it, is the fact that I understand, you know, people were saying, oh, Mantha should fight less, and he hurt himself, you know, he's hurt himself in multiple fights. This wasn't that situation. This is a dirty play by Jake Muzzin, which, by the way, wasn't punished by the NHL Players Association. He had no fine, no suspension, yet Fabry was fined, I think, like $14,000 or something like that for that stick spear.
Yeah, and Athanasiou's thing was that was a bonehead thing that he did.
Yeah, that's the thing. His play,
he deserved to get suspended for a game, honestly.
Right, yeah. But that's, you know, and that's the thing. It just to me that it doesn't really seem fair that he received that punishment, yet Muzzin gets off the hook for that. I just don't really see. I'm not defending Athanasiou's actions by any means. Don't get me wrong. That's not the thing I'm going for right now. It's just the fact that the Players Association has it all wrong. I mean, look at, you know, the guy, I can't remember who it was who Athanasiou came. I like the fact that Athanasiou came back and defended Mantha in that sense. He didn't do it in the right way because it was a cheap hit, and it was, you know, but I like the fact that he's staying up for his teammates in that sense, even though the hit was not smart. But again, it's just like the guy wasn't seriously hurt. but Mantha was. And I feel like the slew foot was almost worse than what Athanasiou had done.
Used Mantha's head as leverage and pushed him.
I mean, right. Like, I don't really understand that. And the fact that I guess Mantha's injury is being ruled as a rib injury. I guess I'm not really sure. That's from Helene St. James from the Free Press is listing it as a rib injury, or they were classifying upper body again. So they didn't say anything about concussion, but again, I still have a feeling that some of that was involved because, I mean, the way he hit the ice, I mean, I watched the playback and it's just stupid. I don't understand the
same Helene St. James that said that Zadina wasn't anywhere close to making this team this year. Sorry, I had to throw that in there.
We'll get into that in a second, but for sure, like, I mean, it's just a little mind-boggling to me, the fact that Muzzin got no punishment for that whatsoever.
Yeah, but it baffles me. I mean, just the eye test alone tells you that there's just no way that should be allowed and go unpunished. That is not a hockey play. He literally stuck his foot out and swept his legs, like, the sweep the leg Johnny move from like Karate Kid, basically, and then used his head as leverage and took him down. I mean, like, that was dangerous. I mean, he could have really, I thought he had a concussion, honestly. I thought that's what happened, but apparently not. I mean, good, because, we all know how bad concussions are, and no one knows, I mean, depending on the level of seriousness, how long someone could be, out of the game, not to mention, feeling like absolute dog crap. So yeah, it was weird, that whole exchange with Toronto. But I mean, Mantha being out is more of a bummer. The fact that we're not getting to watch him play, because there's just not a lot of things. There's not a lot of reasons to watch this team right now. I mean, you can follow the team like we do. Like, I mean, I'm constantly following what's going on. Like, by the way, absolutely. Montreal just scored, so it's 3-2 Montreal. So if your team tank, then there you go. But I'll tell you what, at this point of the season, there's not much to watch. So if Mantha was out there, at least we'd have some reason other than Zadina and Hronek, as far as like the young guys. I mean, we all love watching, Bertuzzi and Larkin play, but I mean, there'd be some other reason to watch the games, as far as hope for the future goes. And that would have been nice to see Mantha kind of have like, okay, yeah, the team sucks, but this guy is having a breakout season, and that's always fun to watch. And it's just unfortunate we're not, for probably a second or third year in a row, we're not going to be able to see that kind of a season from him. Not because he's not playing well, but because he's not physically out there to do it. Right.
No, I absolutely agree. And there's actually something I kind of want to transition to, in that sense. I guess we can just start beginning to talk about, one quick thing before I want to talk. I mean, the one breakout player I guess we've seen other than Zadina, I want to say, is Tyler Bertuzzi. I mean, he's looked really well. He's played really well on that top line. He's the Detroit Red Wings All-Star representative for the 2020 All-Star game. So I definitely think that was a good choice for them. I know every single team needs a representative.
Don't you love what he said, though? Don't you love the way he handled it? I mean, that's what you got to love about hockey players, is like they're like the most humble, athletes out there as far as like the four major sports. And he's like, look, like, I get it. Like, I'm here because pretty much every team has to have a representative. If not, I probably wouldn't be here, but, I'm honored, much different approach than what Larkin took. And Larkin, I mean, God love him, but man, he really shouldn't have said anything that he said, because not that I disagree with him, but man, he is getting his ass just like raked over the coals right now by certain people in the media, like, Burke, and Milbury and some of the other idiots out there. But even the Hockey News, people are kind of ripping him for saying, don't vote for me. I'd rather have the days off, blah, blah, blah. And, he's catching flack from people about, hey, until you do something in the league, like make the playoffs, win some playoff series, get into this, into all-star game, like, as many times as someone like Ovechkin has, shut your mouth and, get to the rink. I think Burke actually said that if he was Steve Yzerman and he was the GM of the Red Wings, he would have ripped his face off for saying that. He basically said, shut up and go to the rink and play, you should be honored to go. And it's like, look, dude, this game is a joke. It's an absolute joke. All right. It is ridiculous. I mean, I don't like Boston and I'm not a Toronto fan, but Brad Marchand isn't going. I mean, there's a lot of high-end players that are not going to be in this game because of the way the rules are set up, and the game doesn't mean anything. It means nothing. At least in baseball, game still doesn't mean anything. It still sucks in general, but at least it has some sort of implication on what happens in the playoffs. And I think the winning league hosts the World Series. I personally think that's kind of crap, because if you're the best team and you deserved home ice or home field, based on how you played all year, you should get rewarded for that. But whatever. The point is, the game doesn't mean anything. Right. It's a joke. And if they really want people to feel honored about it, and they really want people to not take days off instead of go to the game, then they should do something to make it more meaningful. So it's a cash grab for the owners, really. Yeah.
Because here's my thing about the Larkin comments. First of all, I think he was joking. The way the comment was set up, I feel like he was joking. I mean, like I said, I don't really think he necessarily meant. I don't think he necessarily meant any ill intent on it, or about it. You know what I mean? It just didn't really sound like it was something that he was really serious about. If you watch the interview, he's obviously very, he doesn't seem like he's very serious about his comment. You know
maybe
what I
mean? Maybe they asked him that right after like our 28th loss or something.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like, here's the thing, guys. Like, when you think about Dylan Larkin taking days off, right? This isn't necessarily being like, oh, well, he's going to go sit in his couch during the All-Star game. Dylan Larkin is seriously one of the hardest young workers in the NHL. If you really think that Dylan Larkin's gonna take these time, I mean, if he needs to take time to himself, then he can take time to himself. But seriously, it's the same thing that reporters got in trouble for when it came to the NBA, when that whole shut up and dribble thing came along. Like, seriously, I mean, I don't mean to bash the media on this, on this podcast. It's one of those things. I have, a lot of respect for people like Helene St. James and Burke and others who, have their own opinions. I mean, obviously they are big pieces in Michigan media, and they're entitled to their own opinions. But that's the type of comment you shouldn't be making. That type of comment in that sense is almost as worse as what Larkin's saying. You don't get to tell a guy and just say shut up and go play hockey, because you're not in that position. You're not in his. You don't wear Dylan Larkin's shoes. You don't get to comment in that situation. That's not the way he should have handled the situation at all. Because taking a controversial comment and using another controversial comment to add to that just doesn't help the situation at all. Yeah. It just makes yourself look bad.
Burke should just put some more oil in his hair, actually tie his tie and shut his mouth, because he honestly, I can't stand Brian Burke, but it is what it is, man. I mean, he made the comments. He should have been smart enough to know that if he said something like that on camera, on video, it was going to get out. I think Yzerman or somebody's probably going to have a talk with him and tell him, hey, no matter how you meant it, you got to watch it, because that stuff, I'm going to be honest with you, man. Like, I don't have a problem with what he said, but, you know how Yzerman is. He's got a dry sense of humor. He probably appreciates where he's coming from, but I can't imagine that the Red Wings were too pleased about, having to hear their potential captain of the future getting ripped apart on national hockey media because of him saying don't vote for me. I mean, it's right. It is what it is, man. I don't think it's a big deal, but it's a shame. I wasn't too thrilled about having to hear about Larkin getting trashed by the media, but whatever, man. We all know the game's a joke, and this team though, dude, as we've been talking, the Red Wings just tied it up Nielsen just scored his third goal of the season. Yeah, dude.
Wow.
He's of his 3 goals this year, 2 of them came tonight. So
That's pretty wild.
Maybe we're good luck. Maybe we should,
record during the games more often. I'm pretty sure we recorded during games before and isn't necessarily voted as well, but I'm glad that we're somewhat of a good luck.
The odds are against us, Chase. This team is bad.
Yes.
So, one of the things that we were going to talk about is we were talking about Fabry. We started talking about Zadina a little bit. Let's talk about Zadina since the whole he's been getting carted back and forth. Physically, he's stayed in Detroit, but I mean, there's been a lot of these paper transactions,
right?
And I don't really get why that is. I don't even think. Yeah, from listening to Max Boltman and Parshanth on Wings for Breakfast, I don't even think they know for sure exactly what's going on with that. I mean, that's like all cap stuff, really. I think, but he is really like grown before our eyes. I think you're seeing from him, no, he's not putting up like crazy numbers right now, but everybody he's playing with, he's actually making them better. He's actually been more of a playmaker, but he's scored some goals that you've seen that not anybody else can score. I mean, I think Blashill made a comment after the last game about, he knows he can one-time it, but he actually thinks he's even more effective from that spot when he actually settles the puck down and snipes it with his wrist shot, because his wrist shot is pretty lethal. And that goal is not something you're going to see Darren Helm score. No offense to Darren Helm, but I mean that is a goal scorer's goal that he put in that upper, the short side top shelf on. I think it was Crawford that was in.
It was Crawford.
It was Crawford. That was great
beautiful
to see.
Goal.
Yeah,
right,
I mean
beautiful goal.
To even take that shot right now tells me he's got his confidence up.
Mm-hmm.
And in the way he's hustling, the attention to detail in his game. I mean, he had a gaff in that game. I think in the second period, the whole team played horrible in the second period the other day. But he had a little gaff, but he didn't let it affect the rest of his game.
Right.
And that's the thing you're seeing from him now is he's got this prolonged, this sustained confidence. And if he doesn't score in a night, he doesn't get down on himself. You can see, that he's feeling more comfortable. I don't know what he's going to be, but he sure as hell looks like, the right guy for me. I mean, as far as who we picked, I mean, Kotkaniemi's kind of fallen off the tracks. Barrett Hayton looked really good in the juniors, but he's not really been playing at the NHL level yet. I mean, I still think Barrett Hayton's going to be a good player, but I don't know that I would have taken him over Philip Zadina. Zadina looks to me like, he potentially could be that line driver. I don't know about a line driver, but I think he's going to do more than just score himself. I think what we're seeing from him with this added dimension of being more of a playmaker now is he's going to make other players better around him.
Mm-hmm.
That's why he's on the second line now, which is great to see. He's kind of elevated himself from getting relegated to that third, fourth line, oh yeah, we're going to start you on the second line or the first line, but we're just going to try out for like one shift and then we're going to put you on the third line for the rest of the game. He's getting sustained, like he is getting more time with more meaningful minutes, end of game type minutes. He's getting those minutes with the better players. This is what we wanted to see at the beginning of the season, right?
Exactly. Yeah. No. I mean, this is the exact Zadina I think people are. This is the exact Zadina that people were expecting when he was drafted sixth overall. I mean, he looks more confident, like you mentioned. I mean, he looks like he belongs on the main roster. There's no doubt about it. And you could say as much as you want about all the the paper transactions, like you mentioned, him being sent back down, pretty much back and forth. But he belongs in the main roster. He really does. I mean, he's been. Did he just score?
He just scored as we're talking about him. You're talking, and right up on the Gamecast, on NHL.com, Filip Zadina pops up his 5th goal of the season with Ernie's first assist.
All right.
and Filip his 12th assist. So sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're good.
But not only the Red Wings are winning, but the guy that we were just talking about literally scored. So every time that we talk Wings when they're playing, we got to make sure to bring up Zadina. We got to keep this going, dude.
Absolutely, man. That's the kind of stuff you love to see. I'm telling you. Even if the Red Wings end up losing tonight, every time I see them, every single time I see Zadina score, it doesn't even matter if they lose, to me, in my opinion. I mean, Zadina has been a very big bright spot in this hockey team. He's been one of the main reasons why the Red Wings, would even be remotely watchable this season. And that's just what that's the kind of stuff I like to see. I really wish the Red Wings would, eventually call up Seider this season. I think the defense could really use it. I think the defense could really use it, and I think he could definitely. Dude.
I think he's getting called up. I think it's going to happen after the trade deadline, but I think he's going to get called up. I mean, honestly, why not? I mean, I think they're going to burn that first year of his ELC. I mean, it's kind of what a lot of these teams have been doing. I mean, you have to figure there's no reason why he doesn't start in Detroit next year with the openings that they're going to have and how he's played. I can't imagine. So if he's going to be here next year, you burn that year and get him signed at a lower cap size, while you can, because dude, this guy's going to be a top 4 guy, probably on our top pairing, pretty quickly. I don't see any reason why he doesn't get I would think that he's going to play, somewhere around 10 to 12 games. It depends on what's going on with Grand Rapids too, because I don't think Grand Rapids is in a playoff position right now. I know they'd like to get Grand Rapids in a playoff position, but the thing that Grand Rapids is doing this year, which is different from previous years, is they're really focusing more on the player development side, not just getting a veteran-laden team to compete for the AHL championship.
The Calder Cup, right?
Yeah, they're not so worried about that right now, which is good, because you want a good AHL team, but everyone thought this Grand Rapids team was going to just be gangbusters this year because of all the first rounders that the Red Wings had on there. But they forget, really, even for an AHL team, this is a pretty young group, and next year will not be much older. So, if Seider's learned what they've wanted him to, and they're playing him, he's playing big minutes, dude. We're not talking about, he's playing like 22 plus minutes a night. Meaningful minutes. He's on the first pairing. He's got 1 goal, I think 11 assists, and he just laid out this kid from Kazakhstan. Did you see that?
I saw that. Yes. Oh my god.
Someone said, do we call it, instead of being Kronwald, do we call it being Berlinwald? It's like, I don't, funny. I love to see that, man. Like, if that guy's going to hit like that, play physical, be a dominating force defensively like that, and he's going to be able to move the puck up the ice, be able to skate like he does. I mean, I don't know that he's ever going to be like this flashy, big-time offensive defenseman, but that's not really what we need. I mean, that might be more of what Hronek is, Hronek has the edge to his game, which I love, but, he's the one that seems to be a little bit more offensive-minded and is still – I think he's going to be more of a two-way guy. Seider is going to be – I just think he's going to be a beast. From what I've seen of him so far, he was the best – from what I understand, he was the best defenseman, more than likely, in that whole World Junior Championship tournament. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
Who else?
I was going to say, I really couldn't –
He was better than Bowen Byram was.
Yeah. I mean,
even McIsaac outperformed Bowen Byram.
I mean, did you see how many minutes he was playing, though? I mean, I think he had more minutes than any other player. Yeah,
Seider had 26 minutes a night or something like that.
Yeah,
something like that.
He had more minutes than any other player.
He's playing half the game.
Right. It's ridiculous. I don't know
And he
how the
only
kids...
was on the ice for one even strength goal against.
That's insane.
All the goals that Germany got that they let up, he was only on the ice for one even strength goal.
That's insane.
And he's playing half the game, dude. That means that all the goals are being scored during the other half of the game when he's not on the ice. That's crazy, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, that is crazy. So that's got to make you feel good. I mean, you've got to feel pretty good about that pick. I was honestly, just like you, very shocked when they picked him 6th overall last year. But I would say, even if here's the thing. So I wanted Zegras. I made that very well known. Mm-hmm. Zegras looks every bit as deserving of being at that level of a pick too. He's looking, from what I understand, he's been playing great. Mm-hmm. So I would love me some Zegras. But from what I can tell, dude, right-handed defensemen, first pairing defensemen that play like that are very hard to come by, and we may have found ourselves one.
I absolutely agree. Like I said, there were a lot of players that I think I would have liked at the time. Over Sutter, like I said, I think we were both, like you said, we were both really surprised at that pick. But the more I see Sutter play, it just makes me love the pick more and more. And it's sort of one of those things where it's the same way with Zadina. I'm still sort of getting that same exact feeling. Part of me, still looks at Quinn Hughes and just how well he's playing with Vancouver, and still a part of it does still hurt me a little bit, but yeah. But I really do like the way Zadina's been playing. I love the way Satter's been playing as well, and that's the thing that I think we've been so excited to really look forward to, is just the future of this team. I mean, obviously Team Canada won the the World Juniors. They won, so that means Veleno and McIsaac get the big win there, which is nice.
Veleno played great.
Yeah, he played really well, too.
He wasn't putting up the crazy numbers, that Lafreniere put up, but he was the rock defensively. Absolutely. And he made a lot of good plays, but the Red Wings told him, last year, yeah, it's great that you can score 100 points against, your peers or guys that are slightly younger than you, but this is what we want to see from you. And,
right.
I think some people would say that, I don't know that he's struggled in Grand Rapids. I think just like Zadina, he's had to, that adjustment, that adjustment from junior hockey to the AHL is the hardest adjustment to make.
Absolutely. No, I completely agree.
So they got to give this kid, and he's gotten better and better. He's being entrusted with bigger minutes in Grand Rapids. And, you've seen what he did at Worlds against his own players, within his own age group. He's playing big minutes, and they're putting him out there in all the critical situations, which is what you want to see. So right. I've got no problem with, a guy like that being our second or third center. I don't know that he's ever going to have a 70-point season in the NHL or even a 61, but if he ends up being a better version of Darren Helm with better hands at center, I'm okay with that. I mean,
yeah, no,
because that's what I'm hearing is, he's a great skater. Defensively, very seems to really has embraced that part of his game, and we know he's got playmaking skills. Mm-hmm. I mean, I would, that'd be great. I just think there are some people that would like to see these guys be in Detroit like right now, but I just don't see the point. I don't think there's no reason for what. Do you really think that we're going to be better?
I don't think so. I really don't see. Yeah, I don't really see any reason.
And we don't want to be better right now.
Yeah, I don't really think there's any reason to be better either. Yeah. Because obviously another player we looked at Team Canada, everyone was looking at him, was Alex Lafreniere. I mean, the kid looks incredible, as always. He had a little bit of an injury scare, and I think the whole hockey community just froze for.
But he
for about 24 hours.
He definitely rose his stock went up even more because of it.
Right.
He could have just sat out the rest of the tournament and said, I'm done. I'm not playing another game. I'm not going to hurt my draft status. That's it. And he still would have went first overall. He's still going to go first overall. But to do what he did, to miss one game and then to come back and show the gumption and play like he did, there's no doubt. There is no doubt he is number one. I mean, to me, it's even more obvious now than last year between Quinn Hughes and Kakko. And Kakko's not doing so hot in New York right now.
Yeah, I mean, he's not playing his best, and Hughes is not playing well either. He's actually Jack Hughes is dealing with an injury right now in New Jersey, which obviously isn't much of a control. But I mean, he wasn't necessarily, his stats weren't necessarily mind blowing from his time in New Jersey right now. They're not really, his numbers aren't necessarily great. He's definitely being outplayed, which is obvious.
People want
he's
that instant gratification. Oh, they were drafted first overall. So, I mean, Ken Holland made a comment today or yesterday about McDavid, saying like, hey, when Zetterberg and Datsuk became Zetterberg and Datsuk when they were 25, 26 years old, I've coached the Russian Five, I've managed the Russian Five and Steve Yzerman and all that. But I can honestly say I've never managed a guy like Connor McDavid. It's unreal, the skill level, the points he's putting up, just the way he plays. It takes a special player to come into the league right away and light it up. I mean, Stamkos, same situation. There's very few players, that are able to do what McDavid has done, and guys like Ovechkin and Crosby. Like, those are true generational players that even if Lafreniere gets drafted by the Red Wings, okay, say we get that first pick and we're going to do a Tankathon today and we're going to have good luck, Chase. Let's say that happens, and don't be surprised if the kid doesn't come into the Red Wings roster like day one and put up 20 goals, 30 goals, okay? Because this is a hard league, dude. Like, this kid... Oh,
yeah. The adjustment is, like you mentioned, is tough.
And let's look at what happened last year with Byfield. All right, so Byfield didn't even play a shift in the gold medal game, I don't think. If he did, I don't think he played hardly at all. He didn't play a lot, and he's an underager. He is playing as a 17-year-old, I think.
I think so, yeah.
When Lafreniere played in the World Juniors the last time, he had just as much trouble doing anything. Now, on the flip side, Zadina in the World Juniors put up 7 goals and was like the best player pretty much in the junior tournament his first year. And the second year, he didn't do much. I mean, you can't use that tournament as a barometer, necessarily. But I think the point is that every level you go up, you're going to face another level of challenge that you got to deal with. And these young kids coming into the league, now players are able to come in and play at a higher level, much younger than they ever were. It's kind of like, with the NFL. I mean, you remember when Aaron Rodgers came in, he sat behind, Favre for a while, and it was kind of unheard of that players, rookie quarterbacks came in and actually made an impact, and now they're kind of expected to in some cases. Same thing with these young hockey players coming in. I don't expect Mo Seider to come in his rookie year and be our number one defenseman and dominate. I would love to see that in year 3 or 4, but I don't expect that in year 1, and I didn't expect that from Zadina last year. So the fact that 2 years in, Zadina's starting to really show something for a 20-year-old, I think he's 19 or 20, just turned 20.
I think he just turned 20, yeah.
It's pretty damn good, dude. I mean, the Red Wing fans from the playoff streak, we were used to waiting until someone like a Nyquist or Tatar turned like damn near 24, 25 years old before they got a chance. And we're watching Zadina come into the Red Wings at 19 years old.
Right.
Not bad. Larkin obviously was an exception to the rule when he came in, but I mean, we're not used to seeing players come in this young, but it's happening all the time now. Just don't expect them to dominate right away. So Lafreniere looks really good. He looks dominant to me, bona fide number one. But, let's just kind of assume that the guy's not going to come in right away and make the Red Wings a playoff team.
No, yeah, I completely understand what you're saying. And again, I think that's what you're kind of seeing with Quinn Hughes and or not Quinn Hughes, sorry, Jack Hughes and Capo Caco right now. It's just the fact that they're struggling a little bit to
and it's a bad team.
Yeah, right.
They're playing on bad teams, and hockey is a total team sport.
Yeah, completely. I completely agree. I mean, I wouldn't, especially because the Devils just traded Taylor Hall. It takes away, potential line mate from Hughes there, and obviously he's playing through injury right now. So it's one of those things that, I just think that both of them are having some growing pains, which is expected, and I think that's the same thing, we should expect going forward for guys like Lafreniere if that ever becomes a reality. Fingers crossed, but. I seriously do think, your point about Connor McDavid, I have not been this excited about a prospect coming into the NHL since Connor McDavid about Alexis Lafreniere. Lafreniere. The kid is fantastic. He looks so good. I'm not completely, locked onto this guy. Obviously I have to, the Red Wings only have an 18.5% chance to grab that first overall pick. So, we can't have our hearts set on him too much, but there are some other players that I really do like. But, Lafreniere he looks unbelievable. So I hope that he ends up turning out to be that kind of prospect if the Red Wings are able to get their hands on him. But like I said, we're going to run this Tankathon really quick and run through this. Yeah, of course. We can. Yeah, for sure.
All right,
let's run through this.
1, 2, 3. Let's see what we get. Ooh, I got third.
Yeah, third.
Yeah, Lucas Raymond.
Lucas Raymond.
Number one. This is why I hate this stupid ass mock draft. The way the NHL does it. First overall goes to Calgary, which is my second favorite team. So I should be not so upset, but still. So they get Lafreniere. Ottawa gets Quentin Byfield. We get Lucas Raymond. LA gets fourth, which I don't think is going to be Perfetti when it's all said and done at fourth, but fifth is New Jersey. So we dropped down 2, not 3, but Calgary moved up 12.
I'm going to run it myself as well. We're going to compare here. Let's see. I actually dropped 2. So oh my goodness. So the Devils jump over to the number 1 spot again and get Lafreniere.
That should be completely outlawed. They should just kick their ass out of the dude. And they didn't even have Taylor Hall going up there this year to be their good luck charm.
Yeah, right.
Dude, come on. That's like the worst. Other than the fact that I would rather have second than fourth. Obviously, I'd be totally happy with Quentin Byfield, but
absolutely,
man.
It says Lafreniere at 1 to the Devils, Red Wings picking Byfield at 2, Lucas Raymond to Anaheim at 3, and then Perfetti to Ottawa at 4, and then LA gets Drysdale at 5. I forgot that it looks like in this one it has, because I know Ottawa has 2 first-round picks this upcoming season in the first round, and they actually got 4 and 6, so it has them taking Perfetti and Holtz in this mock, which is a pretty big jump for their second pick. I'm not necessarily sure where that's projected, to be honest with you. I think it's let me look. Yeah. I believe their second pick it's projected. They're in 6th right now, where San Jose is. Holtz. They're in 6th. Yeah, so Holtz, it would be the pick there. But again, that's where I kind of want to talk about the fact that I really do like Quentin Byfield as a prospect. The kid is big, 6'4". I think he's like just over 200, like
214 according to this. Yeah.
Okay. The kid has a massive body.
Oh, dude, he's a great skater too.
Yeah, great skater. He's a lot. I think he's a lot like Mantha. You know, he's a great skater for his size. You know, the kid just knows how to play hockey. He's got very high hockey IQ. He's one of the top scorers right now for this in the CHL. The kid looks great. I mean, he has first line center potential. I'd love to see him play on either if for whatever reason he passes Larkin at one point. But I mean, second line center. I mean, to have Larkin on the first line and then Byfield in the second line, especially when the Red Wings struggle so much at the center position right now. You know, they've got. You know, Phil Pula obviously has not been great.
He is what he is, man. Yeah, everyone knew what he was going to be. I mean, he's done his job. I mean, he's 35 years old, man.
Right, but I mean, like you said, overall they've gotten pretty subpar center play. You know, and they won't have to move over, Double A over to that center spot anymore. I think that opens up the opportunity to move him around a little bit more.
I think he's getting moved out of the organization. I think that's what's going to happen. I think trade deadline time, he's done. I mean, I'm not like trashing on the guy. I kind of look at the writing on the wall, and it's, you know, it's one of those things where it's like, how long can you keep saying that this guy's, you know, probably going to be traded before it finally happens? I mean, Yzerman's not going to be strong-armed into anything, but I mean, you know, he's definitely not going to overpay for Athanasiou, and you know, if he has a chance to move him, you know, the problem is that his stock is just not really near where it should be. I mean, it would have been great if they could have swung like some crazy deal for him during the summer when his stock was at an all-time high, but right now it's just obviously he's shown he's got 30 goal potential because he did it, so that it's there, so that does help, but he just hasn't really been impressive this year. So Quentin Byfield at number 2 would be great in my draft that I ran here. Ottawa got 2nd and 7th, and their 7th would have been Tim Stützle from Germany. So, yeah,
well, they actually lost again tonight, so the order got switched up. Detroit they actually won against Montreal tonight.
They won the game. Okay.
Yeah, Philip Zadine with the game-winning goal. Very exciting. By the way, Kotkaniemi with goose eggs across the board. So all the Canadians fans who are making fun of the boo-hoo to all the Canadians fans.
Too bad.
That's what I say. Boo-hoo. Keep crying, Montreal fans. But Detroit still obviously stays in that first overall pick position. But Ottawa moves up to second. Their points per game dropped down to 8 points to .860. So Los Angeles drops to 3 and New Jersey drops to 4. Even though Ottawa and New Jersey still both have 37 points and Los Angeles is 38. I guess the points per game plays into that, which I didn't realize, but still, it's a pretty big mess at the bottom. I mean, you know, but I mean, Detroit still looks by far to be the worst team. I mean, Ottawa with 37 points is tied for the second worst team in the NHL, and Detroit is at 25 points. Like, they still have 12 more points than Detroit does. It's insane. It's a 5-win difference in between the two teams, which doesn't sound like a lot, but 5 games, you know, it's pretty big when you think about it. So. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, you know, like I said, I've voiced my frustrations about the whole lottery system in the past. I think it's a stupid system. You know, I don't necessarily think, because here's the thing. I mean, player morale is one of the biggest things in NHL. I mean, obviously they play a lot of games, so as much as it does seem like, you know, the Red Wings are team tank and they're actively trying to tank, I guarantee you that if you ask any of the players in the ice, they're not trying to tank. They're not They're not trying to lose hockey games. None of that happens.
Wired that way. It doesn't work that way.
They're not wired that way. Right. These kids are all competitive. They all want to be good. I'm telling you, there isn't a single player on that roster that doesn't want to be good right now. If the Red Wings could
blow, dude. I mean, they got too many spare parts, man. Too many guys that shouldn't even be in the NHL right now. I mean, Abdelkader is, you know, playing like crap. I mean, he looked like he was a little bit better at the beginning of the season, but then he had the injury and he went right back to looking like a subpar AHLer, you know. I mean, it's been brutal, man. And the goaltending, I mean, Howard has been bad. I mean, really bad. Bernier's been okay.
Bernier's been by far the best goalie on this roster, but it's not saying much because Bernier does not have the best resume over, his career.
He's holding it together, though, because otherwise this would be even worse. I mean, but every time Howard goes in there, he's letting up like 4 goals. So, and it's just... And when it rains, it just pours with him because it's like 1 goal goes in and all of a sudden 2 more go in right after it. It's like, God dang, man.
Yeah. And the defense certainly doesn't help, right? But
the defense is bad, but there was an article that came out today about how, like, Howard being bad is not necessarily because of the defense alone. You can say, yes, the defense is horrible, but like Howard still himself has not played well, regardless of how bad the defense has been.
No, I agree.
Because look at Bernier. Bernier's, still getting scored on a lot, but some game, I mean, he had the shutout, and I think when we played Tampa Bay, he only let up 2 goals. How about that Comrie situation, though? I mean,
I know that whole situation was weird.
I wanted to ask you about that because it seems...
I was actually going to bring it up, yeah.
It's weird because they made the trade. Sorry, RV, I think really the whole thing with that was they were kind of in a emergency situation. They get Comrie in here, and... Sorry Arvey gets moved, and obviously Sorry Arvey, they've given him multiple chances, I think a couple years in a row now where they thought he'd get more ice time in Grand Rapids and he'd grab a spot, like grab a more minutes, and he just not has been able to do that. So the writing's been on the wall with him. So I think they tried to loosen up that logjam on defense up at Grand Rapids. But now you pick up Comrie for like a couple games. He doesn't look very good, and they put him out on waivers, and he gets snagged up by Winnipeg again, who he started the year with, and I think who drafted him. And you hear Blashill say, well, we knew when we put him on waivers that there was a chance that he was going to get claimed, and we were okay with that based on, the games that he's played and what we've seen in practice. We went into that decision fully comfortable with it, which, it says more than what most coaches would say, that basically we didn't think this guy was any good. So we pretty much gave him away. Whatever, man. I mean, I don't really know what that solved other than freeing up another contract. So
who knows? I mean, that's the thing. I mean, because then he hit waivers again, and then he just cleared waivers. So the Red Wings easily could have claimed him back if they really wanted to.
And put him on Grand Rapids.
Yeah, right.
Because they would have been able to put him in Grand Rapids if they claimed him.
Mm-hmm. So I don't really understand. The whole situation is kind of weird. Like I said, I don't really think he played well. He didn't necessarily, shine anywhere per se. I don't know. The situation was just kind of weird, especially when Howard was hurt. I thought that would be sort of the situation. I was like, well, why would they,
just put him on waivers? Caden Fulcher for a game or something.
I guess. I don't know. I'm not really sure what the plan is there, but
that's what they did last year. And near the end of the year, he played a game. I mean, dude, it's the last place team, dude. I mean, I think the only trade that I'm not really. I don't really have an issue with the Ernie thing. He hasn't really panned out right now. But if Adam Ernie is playing dynamite, fourth line, type of style game, and he's shutting people down, and he's playing really good on the penalty kill and chipping in once in a while, whatever. I'm fine with that. But the Perlini thing, that's the one that concerns me a little bit more because they gave up Alec Regula for him, and while Regula is not projected to really be more than like a third line defenseman or third pairing defenseman, he was having a really good year in London. The thing with London, you never know, is guys tend to really shine in London a lot, and then they don't always end up projecting. They don't meet their potential in the NHL because London's usually got a stacked team. But I mean, Bouchard graduates from London to playing in the AHL and some games, I think, in the NHL for Edmonton this year, leaves that first power play spot open. Boquist moves on to Chicago, so it really opened up a lot of ice time for Regula, and he was doing something with that ice time. It's like, oh man, maybe they jumped the gun on that one a little bit too quickly, but dude, honestly, it was a low risk move. So, you see what happened with Fabry. I mean, if you strike out on a couple of those and it lands you Fabry in the end, can you really complain too much about it?
That's the thing that that's the thing that I really want to bring up about that. It's just the fact that, you know what, the Red Wings moved Regula and it was Saarjärvi because they believe these guys to be pretty expendable. I mean, if you look at it, the Red Wings defensive pipeline is pretty stacked. So I think the Red Wings are confident enough with where they are.
Second pairing guys, probably.
Right, exactly.
I would not.
I meant stacked in terms of like lower level. I don't mean like top end.
They have depth. They have depth at that. Yeah, and we don't know what McIsaac's really going to be. Cholowski's obviously still got some things to work out. I'm kind of surprised he's back in Grand Rapids again, but whatever. I mean, dude. After seeing what Daly does and Green looking up as washed up as he looks right now. I thought they were going to give him more time up here, but
I thought so too. But
whatever. I mean, they definitely have no shortage of second, third pairing prospects in the system, and we don't know what to make of the guys that they just drafted in 2019, other than Sider. So who knows? But yeah. I didn't really have. It's not like I was like, "Oh, why'd you give up Regula?" or whatever. Why'd you do that?
Right. Exactly.
It very easily could have been Regula for Fabry and De La Rose for, Perlini. I mean, if you think about it, out of all that, you get a potential building block, a young player that produces for your second line,
right?
And the only thing you really gave up to make a move like that was, however you want to dice it, was either a fourth line center or, a potential third pairing defenseman. So when it's all said and done, I think, you come up aces with the move that Yzerman made with the Fabry thing. Now, if the Fabry thing wouldn't have worked out, then you'd be like, okay, did we just waste an asset? But clearly they gained an asset out of that whole thing. So I don't know. You can look at it however you want, but I think overall he made good on that. It's just I'm kind of anxiously awaiting what's going to happen around trade deadline. I'm anxious to see if Athanasiou gets dealt, if some team takes a run at him for the playoffs, and knows that there's a risk he's going to walk after the season, because I think, is he a UFA or an RFA again? He's an RFA again.
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe it's RFA.
Yeah. So he'd still be under team control. So, and with the season he's having now, there's no way he's going to make huge money, but somebody will take a chance on him, I would think. It just depends if they get value. What I'd like to see is, maybe Detroit dangles AA if they haven't already, to maybe see if they can pry Georgiev away from New York, and see if that might be the, I don't want to say long-term answer, but maybe that ends up being a possible answer at goal. Right.
There's a lot of possibilities. I really do think, especially with AA being an upcoming RFA, I don't even know necessarily if I think of the. I don't really know if – obviously the Red Wings should qualify him given the opportunity if they're not able to deal him. I think they qualify him. They can get him for, relatively cheap if they just qualify his offer for that, for that year. I don't really think they want to be talking long-term extension unless we're seeing something that or they're seeing something that we're not. But I could certainly see them trying to deal him. And potentially just trying to see what they can get in the offseason too, because like they said, they have full control. So if a team wants to offer a pick for him or whatever else, I think they can end up taking that, especially if they don't end up, being able to trade him. And I think acquiring more assets just makes sense for what they're doing with him. I don't really know necessarily what his target, what they should be looking for in terms of return. I think you get decent picks for him if you're not trading players. I think there's certainly, I know he has 30 goal potential. He's not having much of a good year, but I think you can still get a decent amount back for him. They should still get a good haul if they end up trading.
If there's any way they could, if there's any way possible, they could try to get another pick in the first round that could potentially be a lottery pick. I mean, and I'm saying you'd probably have to combine him with another asset, maybe you could do that. I don't know. I mean, and I think the reason why you could do that is because he's not really making that much money. So, he would be probably a risk worth taking for a team looking to add some, high end speed, for the playoffs. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, it's just teams are always going to be kind of hesitant to give up a first round pick, but I mean, just kind of taking a look at who might be a team that they can target. I don't know. Does a team like Buffalo take a shot? Does a team like Calgary take a shot? A team that is kind of like thinking that they can get into the playoffs, and with him, that could make a difference for him. I don't know, man. Who knows? I mean, I think as we get closer, though, it's something that we should continue to entertain. I think the fact that he's been struggling to put up the kind of points he put up last year, his stock is lower, obviously. And if his stock was much higher, then we probably wouldn't need to be talking about a potential trade anyway. I just look at what's long term for him. I mean, he's a better winger than he is a center. And, we've got other guys coming up. You can't have him making $4 or $5 million on the second line, not producing, and he's a defensive liability in most cases. Yeah. So,
yeah, I definitely think Anthony C is someone to move on from. I think that's really the only. I mean, I think we could definitely see some more trades before then, but minor trades in that sense. But I don't really think we'll see any of those big blockbuster trades until getting close to the deadline. I really do think that Anthony C is the only one they decided to trade. I don't necessarily think, as much as Fabry would be interesting to see, I don't think they end up moving him.
I don't want him to. Obviously,
yeah, I would.
I'm wondering if some team. I wonder if some team just dangles that carrot and says, "Hey, we want to add this guy. We don't have a lot of money. We know he's not making a ton, and you got a team that's willing to give up a first to get him.
Right?
Do the Wings bite?" And I think the question you got to ask yourself, if you're a Wings fan, is, okay, well, he's only 23 years old. If he was putting up those kind of points, if we had acquired him and he was 30 or he was 28, 29 years old and he was doing this, you'd probably be a lot more open to moving him because you're like, okay, by the time this team is good again, he's going to be like 32 years old, Right. Now, Fabry is only 23, 24 years old, so maybe by the time the Red Wings are competing for, let's say not sneaking to get into playoffs, but a top 3 seed, he could be 27, 28 years old, Right. I mean, that's still not old, That's one, I mean, they sign him, they could get him for a reasonable contract and sign him to a multi-year deal because he's only got 1 year where he's really, recently where he's really put up much. So, I mean, they could sign him for a nice deal. They could get a really good number for him. So I think they're going to keep him. But, the only other thing I wanted to talk about today, and I don't know if you had anything else, is just the Blashill talk just continues to happen. And I don't think there's any chance that he's getting fired this year until the end of the year. But I don't even know if they're going to can him after this year. I mean, what are your thoughts on Blashill? You know, we've talked before about him at length, but, you know, since we've talked last, have your thoughts changed about Blashill, about whether or not he's really done anything worth or anything to warrant the Red Wings keeping him on next year?
I don't necessarily think he's really warranted. Like, there's not really any reason to keep him on other than the fact that the Red Wings are bad right now, and I don't really think they would. Moving on from Blashill wouldn't necessarily be the best. Like, it wouldn't improve the team. I mean, it might improve the team's morale because obviously the team is probably bumming right now. I mean, they're 2-8 in their last 10 games. You know, they're not, despite a win tonight, which probably feels pretty good. I mean, I think more of anything, it would just be more of a morale thing. I mean, if you've looked around the NHL, 8 head coaches have already gotten fired this season. Like,
it's crazy.
8 head coaches have been told to piss off before Jeff Blashill, which is just insane to me because I think Jeff Blashill is like one of the longer tenured head coaches in the NHL. He's like he's like the 6th longest tenured head coach currently in the NHL, which is ridiculous to me. I don't understand that. Like
Cooper and Tampa Bay.
Right. Yeah. It's like, are you kidding me? Like the fact that these guys are, you know, that he even, you know, his tenure in Detroit has even lasted that long. And again, I think it's one of those things where the Red Wings are going to be good this year. They're probably not going to be very good next year. So it doesn't really make much sense other than morale purposes to get rid of him. I'm sure they could find a new head coach, but I just don't really think there's going to be leagues more success if you find someone new. I know that I believe in my mind that Blashill is not in Yzerman's long-term plans at head coach. To me right now, there's just nothing that's really telling me. There's nothing that telling me he deserves to keep his job, but other than player morale, there's nothing that's really telling me he doesn't deserve to keep his job, other than the fact that the team just looks abysmal. I mean, there's just nothing I'll give Blashill this, and just the fact that a lot of, you know, as much as it's a coaching issue and some of the things like discipline and stuff like that, they've taken a lot of penalties this year, and that's definitely a coaching thing. You know, the talent level just isn't there either.
Oh,
and there's
no,
nothing
he doesn't have
really
anything. He doesn't have much to work with. I mean, the injuries have hurt too. But, I mean, you know, what I look at is things like, you know, I've said it before, the penalty kill and the power play. Mm-hmm. Coaching has everything to do with that. There's, you know, you have a team with Zadina, Fabry, Larkin, Hronek, Bertuzzi. All those guys can play on a power play, and you're up 5-4, and our power play is 25th best in the league. Mm-hmm. And it's been bad since he's been here. So even Osgood, and I wanted to text you when I heard this, but I just didn't do it, but I was going to text you when I heard this. I forget what game it was that they play. I think it might have been Dallas, where I think it was after the game, they were breaking it down a bit, and even Osgood pointed to the same thing I talked about, I think in the last episode, about how incompetent or how stupid that system is that they run as far as trying to get the puck into the offensive zone. They don't have the talent right now to do what Datsuk used to do, to basically get the puck into the offensive zone and maintain puck possession without dumping it in and getting it. Okay, so you got a guy like Athanasiou who, like, 2 times in the same power play, takes the puck from the half wall, doesn't have very much speed going, and tries to carry the puck in himself, doesn't utilize the teammates at all, doesn't dump it in, and loses it and immediately gets shot down. And we barely get a shot off in that whole power play because of stupid stuff like that, where they start every single power play where it doesn't, you know, obviously you start with the face-off in the offensive zone. But, you know, when it gets knocked out, okay, now we're gonna set up the defenseman behind the goal, and we're gonna have guys wheel around, but we're still gonna pass it to the wall. And by the time it even gets past our own blue line, everyone's still basically standing still. No one's moving. Nobody is moving. So you're not getting any speed up through the neutral zone. You try to do the drop pass thing, but then the guy that's carrying the puck in doesn't know what to do with the puck when he gets it. There's no open man. It's horrible. And they keep doing the same thing. They don't change anything. It's not like, okay, this obviously isn't working. They've caught on to this. You know, I don't have a very skilled team right now. I've got some real young defensemen that are, not fully confident in what to do with the puck, except for maybe a Hronek. You know, I've seen Green trying to make these passes, and he can't make them anymore. He constantly is turning the puck over at times. I mean, I think I watched him turn the puck over like 2-3 times in the same power play. It's brutal to watch, and they cannot figure that out. So the coach's job is to develop a game plan, develop a system, a scheme that the team can follow that'll give them the best chance to succeed. Do you really think that the Islanders are this good of a team? I mean, if you look at what they have, last year people thought they were going to fall apart with the Tavares going to Toronto, and all the other and the goaltending issues they had the year before that. He turned that team from one of the worst defensive teams, Trotz did, to one of the best defensive teams, purely based on a scheme, on developing a plan that worked for that team. Blashill has no flippin' idea. At least I've seen no proof of it, that he knows how to do it. And if we keep saying, well, he doesn't have the players, I get he doesn't have the players to score enough goals to win enough games, but he sure as hell has NHL caliber players on that team that should understand a system that will allow them to be more defensively responsible, help out that defense on the penalty kill, and be able to at least dump the puck in. Because if you're dumping the puck in and you got 5 guys against 4, and you're dumping the puck in and you can't once retrieve the puck on a dump in on a power play when you've got all the speed coming up through the neutral zone, you got a problem. And that's why they're horrible, dude. And that a lot of this is coaching, and by proxy, Bylsma is no better. This is his power play. And it's gotten no better since he's been here. So the people that think they should just fire Blashill tomorrow and just put, Bylsma in there because Bylsma, won a Stanley Cup against us in 2009, and that somehow makes him the right coach for this job. Red Wings don't have those kind of players on this team. This is a bad team. But they could be a little bit less embarrassing than they are. That's where I'll leave it. That's my soapbox on Jeff Blashill.
That's a great point, honestly. That's I didn't even think about that. That's honestly an excellent point when it comes to scheme, and a lot of that could probably be improved. You're completely right. Because obviously that's a big part of coaching is overcoming that lack of talent, that talent gap. Because there's a lot of bad teams who have that are at least somewhat responsible, or competitive. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of teams where you're just like, but like, that's what I mean. Because like, regardless of the fact that, the Red Wings are where they are, there are you have teams like, just, you can look at any of the lottery teams. Most of them are at least competitive. I mean, come on. Ottawa, LA, and New Jersey are, still bottom class teams. I mean, they're still, 12, 13, 14, 15 points ahead of the Red Wings. They're still competitive hockey teams. They still have, they're still able to win games. It shouldn't be, the Red Wings shouldn't be in a situation where it's like, oh, wow, they win one game every 10 games they play. It's just not how they should go about it. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, teams should be you should at least try to be a competitive hockey team. Don't look like you're actively trying to tank, because I know none of those players are. I know none of those players are out there just saying, "Oh yeah, we're not really going to." Because I mean, if Jeff Blashill brings that type of attitude, the players are going to bring that attitude too. You know,
let's look at one of what I consider one of the leading indicators of non-competitive hockey. Let's look at goal differential. Okay?
Yeah, that's a big one.
Detroit's -72. New Jersey is the second worst. How bad do you think they are?
I can't remember. I think it was like negative 40 something or
-39.
39. Yeah, look, I mean, the goal differential isn't even close. It's ridiculous. I can't believe that.
It's absolutely brutal. I mean, you know, they've given up 168 goals, and the next closest is San Jose with 151. Now, if you start to go up that list from there, it gets ridiculously tighter. I mean, the best team is Dallas right now with that. They're at 104, which is actually surprising because they didn't start off all that great. But I mean, we're at 168, San Jose's at 151, then there's that 149 to 146 range, and then you get the whole string of teams that are, goals against is like, all within one or two goals of each other.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to be that far back in goals against is horrible. We're the worst in goals against, and we're the worst in goals for. 96 goals for. The top team has 161 goals in Washington, who looks very poised to make a run this year. They look great. But it's just, they're so bad, it's funny. I mean, it's ridiculous. And really what it is, I mean, is they go with these stretches where they just cannot stop the bleeding.
Right.
Like they will look good for a period, and then, they will let up like 3 goals in a row. Honestly, it's like when I went and saw them play I saw them play Nashville earlier this year, and I'm sitting there and like the first period was like 1-0 Wings or 1-1 or something. And then all of a sudden Nashville scores like 4 goals in like the second period. And there's goals going in from like the blue line where it was like an intended pass and it goes through Howard's legs. I'm like, dude, oh my God. It was almost like it's cringe worthy.
Right.
Is what it is. It's cringe.
No, yeah, you're completely right. The Red Wings are bad. They're so bad. And that's the thing. It's just
it wasn't supposed to be this bad,
right.
though.
It wasn't supposed to be
bad. But
right.
We were thinking, I mean, I said that I thought the Wings could be 10 points better this year than last year.
Yeah, and it's not even remotely looking that way.
It's looking. The only thing I will pat myself on the back on one of the predictions I made. I don't know if it's going to come true now because Toronto's starting to put their pedal to the metal here, but for a little while there, I was looking like I might be right on Florida overtaking Toronto for that third spot and making the playoffs this year, and Toronto having to get in by the wild card. Toronto's now in third in our division, but Florida's only 4 points back. But I mean,
like I said, Florida's still playing really well. I just don't think Bobrovsky's playing as well as people were thinking. I think that's just the one major thing that I think that's holding them back right now. I don't really know what his stats are.
Tampa Bay's fired back up, though. They're looking like they actually give a shit now, But they were smart, dude. They're like, look, dude, we know what happens when you win the President's Trophy by that wide a margin. We're not going to sweat the small stuff. I mean, I think they even sat Kucherov for a game because I think Cooper, sat Kucherov, benched him for a game because of, I don't know. Obviously didn't like how he was playing, but
right.
It's just kind of funny because people are like, oh, look, they're not good anymore. I'm like, bull crap, dude. It's the same team that won 60 games plus. Don't even tell me that. So I mean, things are starting to. I mean, Buffalo's doing their annual free fall. They're starting to come back down. Montreal is only surviving because they've got Carey Price, and he's not enough to save them all the time. And Ottawa is pretty much where we thought they'd be. So, I mean, things are starting to shake out the way we thought they would. Boston's been on a little, losing a little bit. But is there any team, before we wrap it up today, any one or two teams that have kind of surprised you this year so far?
I think there's actually a couple teams, actually. I just want to take a look here and just sort of get an idea, because like I said, I really haven't been watching too much hockey because I'm really just mainly a run. Yeah, I mean, let me see. I'd like to say that again, I think I wouldn't necessarily say the Panthers are doing bad. They're sort of just like I said. I think Bobrovsky. I think he has he's almost at a 3.4 goals allowed average for the season, which has been really not good. The Blues, surprisingly, I thought they'd see a little bit of a dip in. I thought they'd see a little bit more of a slump after the Stanley Cup win, but they're at the top of the Central Division right now. And so they're playing really well. The Coyotes are playing really, really well too. The Oilers are playing a lot better than I thought as well. I thought that the Devils are going to play so much better, but clearly that's not the case. Obviously, with Hall gone, and Subban does not look good. Hischier has looked pretty good, but Hughes, like I said, is dealing with an injury, and I think they're definitely probably one of the more surprising teams. I thought they'd at least be somewhat of a contender, but it just didn't fall in the right place. And New York, again, was another one. I mean, obviously they tried to be contender. Obviously they drafted Kakko, and they traded for or not traded. I mean, they acquired Artemi Panarin. And they just really haven't been as good as I thought.
Yeah, so, has he done much this year? I haven't even looked at his numbers.
I haven't even really looked at his stats. I'll look up his stats really quick. But, I mean, the Rangers as a whole have just really not been good. It's just been surprising. I'm just, going into the season, I was like, oh, wow, maybe New York could really turn around very fast. So far, he's got wow, okay, never mind. He's killing it. He's got 22 goals and 33 assists and 55 points right now.
Their defense is garbage too, just like ours, right? Mm-hmm. So,
yeah. And you mentioned Montreal. I mean, I think they're on a 7-game losing streak now after they lost tonight. They are not playing well either. So, there's just a lot of teams that I'm just the NHL. I'd have to say is it's just fairly lower scoring this year than I would have thought. I mean, I think it's the Blues who lead, or I might be incorrect on that. I think the Bruins have so the Bruins have it's Capitals. Sorry, the Capitals have 65, the Bruins have 61, and the Blues have 61. Coyotes have 54. The top is the Pacific. But the Capitals, like you said, look great. They look poised to make a run this year. I think. Arizona could maybe be a dark horse in terms of that. It's definitely kind of interesting to see where they'll end up this season, especially now that they have Hall and, I think, and Phil Kessel as well, who's played well this season. I just think, again, I'm just not sure. I'm still a little bit up in the air about that. But like I said, I still think it'll be interesting to see. I think we'll see a lot different. The playoffs will look a lot different this year. I'm really excited to see some different teams in there, like Arizona, potentially Florida. There's teams like Columbus who could potentially sneak in. Calgary is still in contention. I mean, Edmonton as well. I mean, there's a lot of decent teams that I think could easily sneak into the playoffs. You know what I mean? There's a lot of good hockey teams this year. Honestly, much as I don't really see like points wise, I just think there's a lot of good contenders and some interesting ones as well.
It's funny because I see a team like Minnesota, and I'm like, you got to wonder if their fans are like, thinking, okay, this team is going to be a lottery team this year because they were not. I mean, they were not looking good at all, and they've since, strung enough wins together to get themselves, they're still like 5 points out of a playoff spot, the wild card, I think. I don't know. They're out of the wild. They're not quite in the wild card position yet.
Mm-hmm. They're 46 points right now, so they can't be super far out of the.
Yeah, but when it's all said and done, they're going to be in the same position the Wings were in for, between 2012 and 2015, where they were basically just mediocre. Mm-hmm. And that's not a place you want to be. I guess if you're Chicago and you can just, barely miss the playoffs and get the number 2 or 3 pick or whatever they got last year, I guess you can get lucky once in a while. But as a general rule, it's not a great place to be. I'm kind of surprised that they strung enough wins together to get back into the wild card race, and I'm not sure if I'm a Minnesota fan, I'm all that thrilled about that. But they're over 500 overall. I mean, I can't say that because they have 6 overtime losses, but the way that the NHL does it, where they count, you get a point for losing a game, that's whatever. I'm not really all that surprised, except for, Arizona, really. I mean, I'm kind of quietly rooting for them because, they've really not had much of a organization there to cheer for. I mean, fans have kind of been screwed for a while there, supporting that team, and just the ownership situation been so bad for so many years. And now it looks like they've got enough, of their shit together where they're able to make some moves and take some chances and actually get some guys that are going to make some money. So that's kind of refreshing to see that they're finally not a bottom feeder. And not just the farm team for the rest of the league, really.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, so that's good to see. And Edmonton kind of surprised me at the early stages of the year. And they're still in a playoff spot. But I'm not, I honestly, I'm just kind of surprised that Washington is as good as they are this year. I thought they were kind of slowing down a little bit, but, it doesn't seem to be the case. I mean, they like we said, they look like they're poised to make another run. So
absolutely, yeah. I'm pretty surprised with them. The Bruins, their top line of Marchand, Pasternak, and who's the other one? It's gonna kill me. Why can't I think of it? Who's the other top line? About? The Bruins. It's Marchand, Pasternak, and Bergeron. Right, that's who it is. I mean, they've been absolutely unstoppable. So I mean, they look really good. Let me tell you, I mean, I know the Hurricanes are a little bit further down the Metropolitan, but they still look like a really good hockey team. I think there's a lot of contenders.
On Mrazek, if he's going to be.
Mrazek is a big part of it for sure.
Yeah, there was somebody, I was listening to the Hockey News podcast, and they were talking about Mrazek in Detroit, and I forgot the guy who who was talking, but they had a nickname for Mrazek when he was in Detroit, and it was I forgot what the name was, but it was basically alluding to the fact that they didn't know what, he was so he was not stable when it came to like consistently, knowing what you're going to get from him night to night. I'll have to go back and listen to it. It was actually kind of clever, but I guess they had a nickname for him here. What the management did when he was here, about kind of just, they didn't know what they were going to get.
Right.
So I don't know. Anyway, I think we've pretty much covered everything tonight. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, we covered a lot, so I think we'll kind of stop being depressing here for a little bit. And I'm sure a lot of our audience is probably on suicide watch right now based on all of the depressing stuff we've been talking about. One more thing I want to get in, the All-Star break is coming up. And I think Seattle said they're going to be announcing their team name for their new franchise.
Finally.
During the All-Star break. So that'll be interesting to see. So I know we're not really a podcast that covers a bunch of the other teams, but obviously we do talk about them sometimes, and that'll be something interesting to cover. We can spend a couple minutes in a future episode about that whenever they announce that, but that'll definitely be interesting. But I think other than that, I think we're going to sign off for today's episode. Thank you guys for listening again. Happy holidays and Happy New Year's. I hope everyone had a good holiday season. And for right now, we're going to sign off for the day.
All right. Take care, everyone.